Welcome to Key Conversations, where you get to connect with the best of the music business, unlocking the secrets to exploding your music career, presented by In the Key of Success. I'm your host, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. The conversations you're about to hear are between our special guest and participants of my MX4 course, the Marketing and Branding, Money-Making, Mentorship Mastermind for Musicians. They are singers, songwriters, composers, producers, and artists just like you, asking their burning questions of our experts while transforming their careers over 6 weeks. If you think this could be you, check out mx4course.com to schedule a free half-hour coaching call with me to see if we'd be a good fit. So, let's get started. So today I am really excited to have Julie Hurwitz here with us. She is the VP of Commercial Sync at Kobalt. And this is, I think, going to be a real treat. I know it's going to be a real treat. So thank you for being here with us. I really appreciate it.
For having me.
I just want to kick off the conversation. I know before you were at Kobalt, you had a long-term thing at Network, and you've done a bunch of bajillion different things in the music industry, and you're really a stand for musicians and for the music. And I know that about you. So I just wanted to hear from you, what are some of the maybe 2 or 3 highlights that in your career that got you to where you are now and doing the work that you're doing with music?
Well, I guess it all started with me just being obsessed with listening to music all the time. And people ask me if I'm a musician. I'm actually not a musician, but I call myself a professional music junkie. And that sort of distinguished me from the rest of the people that I was working with at a large ad agency, Ogilvy. I worked there for a long time, many years ago. And I wasn't doing music there, but I just was such a music junkie. I was listening to music all the time that I became a resource for the creatives there. And after a while, it became, I wanted to make it official that I become a music person within the agency. And I had a very progressive and supportive boss at the time. Her name's Lynn Rohr. She still works there, actually. And she took me under her wing and sort of let me do the music thing. She kind of grilled me to make sure that I actually knew what I was giving up. But we were in production, and I was giving up, location scouting and casting and working with directors and that sort of thing. And that was all fine with me. And that was really the key. I mean, I was about 26 at the time, and I hadn't really felt like I had a career going on before that point. Before that, it was more just jobs, So anyway, that certainly was the most important stepping stone in my career to make it where I am now.
Cool. That's awesome. And then
you're supposed to find another one. Okay, let's think of the other one.
Well, what transitioned you to Kobalt? That's maybe.
Okay. Well, I was working at Network. I was there for a long time. I had 2 children while I was there. I had 2 maternity leaves while I was there. And I will always appreciate what Network, the flexibility and the sort of access that I had to starting a family when I was there. Not to mention like all the amazing artists and all that I got to work with. But it just became time to go. I wanted to try something new. And this Kobalt opportunity presented itself. And I'm not sure if people who are into networking kind of, once you sort of establish yourself in a certain career, it's really helpful to just I just started calling everybody I knew and said, I'm looking for a new gig, keep me in mind. And this one came up, and I had never heard of Kobalt before. And I remember speaking to my friend Tony, who was the person leaving, and he was looking to help replace him when he left. And I said, I don't know much about Kobalt. And he said, dude, we have LCD sound system. So that was it for me. So there you go. And that was, so I interviewed, and I actually had, I think I had 7 interviews before I got offered the job, which actually is a Kobalt policy now, which is, I think, one of the reasons why we have a really strong staff. And it's anyway, that's one of our strong points, I think. But that's one of the reasons it's a grueling process to get a job here for sure. Wow. But so that process started there. Yeah.
Very cool. And I guess the final question before I turn it over to the musicians on the call here to ask you some questions is, what in a nutshell is your day-to-day work that you do?
Okay. It basically is a juggling act of lots of meetings. I meet with managers all the time, managers and music supervisors all the time. And then pitching songs to brief. So I'll get, Budweiser is looking for a song for their summer campaign. It's roughly going to be this creative. What do you have that works for that? And then I'll pitch song ideas based on those briefs. And then maybe a third and a third and a third. Then also I negotiate deals once somebody wants to buy one of our songs. I work out those deals, and that part's really fun as well.
Oh, good. Amazing. Yeah. Very cool. Perfect setup. Awesome. So I'm gonna start with Jalal because I think he's having some technical difficulties, and while he's here, I want to make sure that he gets his question in. So, Jalal, do you have a question for Julie?
Hi, Julie. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Yeah,
I thank you, Cheryl. I resolved the technical issues. I think I just had to restart my computer, but yeah, I was just curious. What are some of the factors that go into kind of deciding when a song, you think a song meets the criteria for a given, one of your like a company like Budweiser, for example, you were saying, and I'm just curious, like, what do you look for in those songs?
Well, I mean, at the very sort of basic level, it has to sound well produced, and there can't be any grit on it. Like lo-fi stuff does not work in my world at all. Intentional or not intentional, it doesn't come across on television. I love listening to that kind of music sometimes, but that I don't pitch that stuff. So that's sort of like the most basic level, and then it's really kind of arbitrary, to be honest. I try to glean everything I can out of a brief. Sometimes briefs are literally 3 words, and that's all I need. Sophisticated, electronic, moody. Like that pretty much can narrow it down for me pretty well. And then on the other hand, I get really verbose briefs that say absolutely nothing. Like, we're looking for a song that's going to make the viewer sit up and take notice. I get that all the time, like really all the time. And anyway, I'll sort of push back on that. Okay, take notice like silence, or take notice really loud, or is it a female vocal? Because there's just thousands and thousands of options, obviously. But that said, generally speaking, in the advertising world, I focus on licensing for TV commercials, whereas my counterparts in LA focus on the other media types, films, trailers, video games, etc. In advertising, everything has to generally be told a story in 30 seconds. So it's very helpful when there's some sort of like build up to a crescendo, which would essentially be where the product shot comes in or the product name comes in. So a build is huge in my world. And then, other than that, I just kind of, if it's Budweiser, it has to be sort of like upbeat and accessible to lots of people. Like they tend like not quite as edgy as maybe some other brands would. And so I sort of throw all those things into the pot, stir it up, and like hope for the best.
Rudy, do you have a question for Julie?
Yes, a bunch. Okay, well, I was wondering, what do I need to work with Kobalt to publish one of my songs? Like if I'm an independent artist, and which would be the best way to approach you guys?
Okay, well, there's sort of a variety of ways. A lot that my department focuses on selling the songs once they've been brought into our fold. So there's a whole nother department of people in the publishing world. It's called the creative department, and in label world, it's called the A&R department. But
sorry, what was the name?
It's called the creative department.
Okay.
It's, like I said, it's sort of the equivalent of an A&R department at a label. That stands for Artists and Repertoire. Those people are in charge of finding the new talent and signing them up with Kobalt. So those guys are kind of in touch with attorneys and in touch with managers, and they're in touch with sort of scouring the internet. They're on SoundCloud a lot and Bandcamp a lot and YouTube a lot, and also in touch with people at venues. So like, if someone is selling out 3 nights somewhere in Rhode Island, then obviously something's happening with that band in Rhode Island, and we sort of try to figure out what's going on there. And also, but I should say, to join at Kobalt, you need to have an estimated income. Even if it's just estimated, there needs to be some sort of threshold of income that is either in the pipeline or can be expected from this artist based on their historical success. Because what we do when we sign an artist is it's a lot of data entry, basically, at first. And the data entry is as strenuous for the new Katy Perry single as it is for somebody who we're taking a real risk on who doesn't have any history yet of making any income. So I don't know what the thresholds are necessarily, but you have to be able to show that you're going to make some money based on your work.
I see. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, there's so many different moving pieces in this, and you play one role, and it's all.
Yeah, there's somewhat of a method to our madness for sure. But I mean, I assume Rudi, you're an independent artist looking to get some sort of deal to help promote your music. Perhaps Kobalt would be like, and again, forgive me if you're like a huge artist and I'm not familiar with you.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Working on it.
Okay, great. Maybe next year. But anyway, so I would suggest that you start with a smaller publisher first. And there's so many of them. And in fact, Kobalt administers the royalty collection on behalf of a lot of small publishers as well as through artists directly signed to us. So,
is there a place where I can find that list of names? Or
yeah, if you go on our website, there's a list there. Absolutely. And so they're sort of, similar to a label. Like some of them so like, for example, we work with Secretly Canadian. They're not necessarily tiny. They're more well known, but they have a certain sort of aesthetic that I think they like and that they're good at promoting. And there's other there's other smaller publishers that maybe have a different aesthetic that they're good at promoting. So, sort of one way to decide which of these publishers may be good for you is to sort of go to their website, listen to the artists that they represent, and determine if that's something that's sort of in the same wheelhouse as your music, to figure that maybe the creative team at that publisher has a sensibility that may really like your music as well. And then, go that way. And then presumably you sign with a small publisher, and then down the road, maybe a record or two down the road, or EP or whatever. All right, if people even release EPs and records anymore, but somewhere down the road, you have a history of bringing in XYZ in royalties. Maybe Spotify has put you on a playlist or two, and you have a little bit more of a story about yourself and your work. And then at that point, you could, if you're interested, you pursue a larger publisher or sort of like more well-known publisher. But
it's like getting credit in the bank.
What's that?
It's like getting credit in the bank. You need a credit score.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. It's a lot of work to sign an artist for us. There's a whole nother department of people here at Kobalt that are in charge of ingesting new material, registering all those works with all the royalty collection societies all over the globe. the sync team, the team that I work with, we then try to sell the songs and get it out. So there's a lot of work that's involved in signing on a client. It's really not just like, you enter a song and upload it to a website and like you're off and running. It's really not that simple. There's a lot more nuance to it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, good question, Rudi. So I'm going to ask a question and put myself in the cycle here. When you do sign an artist, and once you have the artist on your roster, are you just working with the library of the music they've already produced, or are there times when you're reaching out for custom music? We have this brief, I can't find anything like it, but I think you could create something in this realm. Is that something that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. It really depends on the deal that we have with the artist. So like, for example, we just today got an email that we signed an artist, an English artist that was successful in the 80s and 90s, and we don't actually have any of their catalog in that deal. We only have the future stuff that they're going to make out of this deal. So it depends, and that's actually that's a band, who's, in other words, they're performers as well. Whereas sometimes we just sign songwriters because that's what a publisher focuses on, obviously. So sometimes we sign songwriters based on their catalog, but sometimes we sign songwriters it's only for what we call futures. So in that scenario, absolutely, I'm on the phone a lot with songwriters saying, okay, we advise them on if they're going to be in the studio and they have extra time, if they're interested in getting any syncs, we have advice for them on, like I just told you guys about some sort of a build and maybe something a little bit edgy, or if they want something for a film trailer, it tends to be sort of more epic sounding. And we definitely advise them on that. And then also in terms of writing bespoke work to a specific brief, we do some of that. But frankly, I do less of it because those deals, and Cheryl, you know this from, writing for the world that you're in. Sometimes there are 15 changes to a 15-second commercial, and it's $10,000. It's a $10,000 fee, and it's literally costs that much money to get the thing made.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid those if I can. Yeah. Unless it's one of I've done deals for our huge, successful Grammy award-winning film composers, for example. And in that scenario, I'll build in $30,000 kill fee, or some sort of massive kill fee in case they end up not getting this for some reason. It doesn't end up working out, or they go with someone else. Right. At least makes it worth it for them. So we do bespoke work, yes. But I don't really like doing those deals because it's tons of money. It's tons of work for not a lot of money.
Yeah. Gotcha. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know, a kill fee is something that we freelance composers put in our contracts. So, and it's not something that gets used very often, but my favorite example was when I was writing a commercial for an direct-to-ad agency, but it wasn't for TV. It was for in stores. And I did all this work. We did all these rounds, and then finally there were 4 different versions. And then the producer got back to me like, turns out that the video TVs that are going to be in all these stores nationwide don't have sound. So they were like, so we actually are not going to have any music. And I had put in a 75% of the total fee was going to be paid to me if it for some reason didn't go. And the producer was great. And she was like, great thing that you have that kill fee in there. So I'll send you a check tomorrow. And I was like, great. Not a problem, because it was like, just in my little invoice. So that's what a kill fee is, for those wondering.
That's very smart of you. Yeah.
Good to have there. So
I always wondered about that. People want to do deals for like the screen in arenas and at Citi Field, it's going to be playing there. I'm like, nobody is listening.
Why?
No one's going to hear it. But okay, if you want to pay a fee for that, great. But if I was a brand, I wouldn't pay for arena screens. But
yeah. And apparently if you're a store, whatever. So, all right, let's go back. We'll do another round. Jalal, go for it.
Yeah. And, so just curious, how much of a song then do you actually listen to before you've decided either, what kind of genre to place it in, or kind of where it might be best appropriately placed? In other words, you're looking for a 30-second snippet How far into it do you get? I'm just curious in terms of setting things up. Like, do you prefer to listen to something shorter, or do you listen to a full like 3 or 4 minute song and then try and extract what you can with working with a client that you already obviously have a rapport with?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, it's rare when I get to the end of a song.
Yeah.
But it's a really good question, because that doesn't mean I'm not like hopping around, on my iTunes, like fast forwarding here and there to get to the meat of a song. But yeah, for sure, I listen to the front end more than the back end. And I should also say that the way that Kobalt is set up, I'm not sure how other publishers do it, but we have 2 full-time librarians on our team, on our sync team. Excuse me. And their job all day long is just to listen to the new music that we get in and to classify it for us. So we have a set number of words. It's actually pretty extensive, maybe 50 words or so that we all use, that the librarians listen to the song presumably the whole way through and tag based on that.
That's cool. Don't worry, there is more of this conversation with Julie Hurwitz. We will be back next week talking more things publishing. Please don't forget to rate and comment on iTunes and Stitcher Radio if you like this podcast. It's the best way to keep it going, get more subscribers, and continue to share this awesome information with the indie music community. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. All of the music on this podcast was provided by yours truly. The theme song is called Inevitably, and it was written with Cameron Ernst and produced by Joey Auk. If you're interested to find out more about my own composing and songwriting projects, go to cbemusic.com. If you're a musician looking to really get some results that you're psyched about in your music career, then head to inthekeyofsuccess.com, where I've created a bunch of different kinds of resources just for you. Key Conversations is sponsored in part by Bandzoogle. They make it easy to build a beautiful website for your music. Their step-by-step system gets you online in minutes, and you can choose from hundreds of mobile-friendly themes and customize them with their easy point-and-click editor. All the features you could possibly imagine for a professional website are built in. So, because you are a Key Conversations podcast listener, you get a special 3-month free trial just for you. Go to www.inthekeyofsuccess.com/resources and click on the Bandzoogle logo to access your free extended trial.